Welcome to episode 70 of In Touch with iOS, a podcast that talks about iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, Apple TV, and related technologies, plus tips, apps, and gear. I am your host, Dave Ginsburg, and my returning guest this week is Ms. Kelly Guimont from the Daily Observations podcast. How are you doing, Kelly?
I'm doing well, David. How are you?
Doing great. I'm so glad you're back. We're going to have a lot of fun.
I'm glad to be here.
So much to talk about, beyond so much to talk about, because there's been so much going on in the Apple world, as I think most of us know.
Yeah.
It's been just absolutely crazy. I just my brain is just going crazy here, and
Oh yeah.
I've got a number of training sessions I'll be doing soon with iOS 13, so I got to prepare for that. So this kind of helps me get my brain even more charged to bring all that information to all you guys. So this week we are going to cover the iOS 13. Okay, well, that was probably a big thing that happened this week. That was released along with iPadOS and watchOS, and we're going to talk about that. And we also
tvOS, which is the one I always forget about.
Yeah, I forgot about tvOS. If we could squeeze it in, I just say with an hour, it's going to be tough to get all this. I might be having multiple episodes of these discussions. So, but let's go and get started. I had one news story I wanted to hit real quick. So guys, we'll get into that. 9 to 5 Mac had this article. Apple actually released an update to 12.4 to 12.4.2, and that was for iPhones and iPads that are, the way I say it, end of the road.
Yes.
So it looks like it's just a handful.
The stuff that won't run 13 in the first place is basically where we're at. Yeah. Yeah.
So you got like 6 Plus, 6 iPhone 6, the iPad Air, which actually I had an iPad Air. I sold it, so at least they have one more update. But it looks like all it is just some security updates. I don't think that's about it. Mm-hmm. But I
think it addresses the Project Zero stuff.
Yeah.
That got fixed as part of the 13.1 release. I think they just went back to 12 and made sure that was patched.
Yeah, so it's good stuff, and it's great to see Apple wants to keep their devices up to date, even though these devices are going to slowly disappear.
And they usually are pretty good when it's something like that. They're usually pretty good about security. At least one back. When there's a security issue that needs to be addressed, usually, and that's the same for macOS as well. So like right now we're on Mojave 10.14, and we would get, and if it were a serious enough issue in Mojave, there'd be a 10.13 patch as well if that was also vulnerable.
Well, actually there was, even though we're not talking about Mac, but a supplemental update did come out today that I just updated on my Mac. So. And Safari was updated as well. So, Apple stays on top of it. As much as people can complain, they stay on top of it. So.
They do.
But, that was the only news really is going on because there's just so much to talk about. Let's just dig right into this because...
let's rock. We got a lot to say.
First thing, you asked me before the show which phone I got. And I've been on a couple of podcasts already, and we've talked about it. Notably, Chuck Joyner and I had our first weekend together. As a discussion of which iPhones we bought, and so I did get the iPhone 11 Pro Max, and I got it in midnight green, and
how do you like the color? I am desperate to talk to people who have the green and find out the deal, and I'll tell you why in a minute.
Honestly don't mind the color at all, and I've always been a space gray guy. I always got the phone with space gray. I wouldn't get the gold or the black, and I would always get space grays. I like that color, but you know what? This color it does reflect pretty well, and it doesn't look that green, even though it is green. I mean, I'm taking it out of my case. I don't know if you can let you see it visibly without the case, and it's I like it. I don't think it's anything that bad. I mean, right now I just bought a really cheap clear case on it, and of course all the new cases will start flooding out on the market pretty soon here. I'm who knows, I could just get it. I probably could get a midnight green case because I know manufacturers are already making those too. So as far as color goes, very happy. I mean, it's not anything of a game changer at all. What was your thoughts with the color you were trying to hit on?
I ordered not Max. Just Pro, but
you did order a phone. Okay, I wasn't sure if you were going to upgrade.
I just don't have it yet because I slept through my alarm, and so I wasn't awake at 5 a.m. to order my phone.
See, we got lucky. We got to do it at 7 a.m. when we were up. See, we made fun of that too. Chuck and I said that. It's like, oh, you Pacific time zone folks. It was about time we could get up at a normal hour and be able to order our iPhone. So it was 7 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Eastern.
And we used to just stay up till midnight and call it good. And, that's not the case anymore.
2 a.m. for us last time. So
yeah. So I ordered a Pro, but I've always been team Hoth phone. So I always had a white. Okay. As long as there's been a white iPhone, I've purchased a white iPhone. It makes me very happy to have one. I really like it. It's sort of the throwback to the iPod. And I also like that when I set it down, I can find it again. Because I usually have it in a clear case or a case of some interesting color. Yeah. But I think this, even though I know it's sort of my job to write about technology and all of that, I think I put this on the payment plan, and I think I'm just going to keep this one until I'm done with it I think I'm hopping off the every 2-year train by hopping on the monthly payment train. And so I'm super excited because as of right now, aside from being team Hoth phone, I am also team home button because I have an 8. Right. And so my experience with iOS 13 might be a little different than yours, since you can measure your phone screen in acreage and I cannot.
That's right.
But and I'm sure we'll get to that because one of the features of iOS 13 is Apple Arcade, and I have many things to say about that.
Okay. Right. Well,
yeah, so that's why I'm curious, is because I was sort of debating, do I want a green one? When your name is an actual shade of green and then Apple starts making a phone in green, it kind of feels like maybe we should have one, because I might as well. Exactly. So, but I could put my, it would be like having my name on it, I feel like. Okay. And so I sort of wondered if I should be getting one or not, and it hasn't shipped yet. And so I'm wondering if maybe I should still bail on that and get a green one. So
I think
that's why I'm desperate for information from people who got green ones. Someone described it as Boba Fett green, and I again feel like that's a point in its favor. And so I feel like maybe I should have one.
I might see a hint of mint, but not rolled. And when you look at it, but I mean, it's such a matte finish and compared to other iPhones that I think it's a good color. I'm happy with it.
Yeah.
So
excellent.
and then it's good to hear. I'm looking forward to hear your thoughts once you get your phone. To see how much you like it, because I'll tell you a couple things right off the bat, and it's pretty much everybody's experience as I've been reading online and posts and such. Of course, the camera. Oh my gosh, the camera is just absolutely amazing. The 3 lenses with the ultra wide angle. That ultra wide angle is just phenomenal. I mean, I just can't believe how wide it gets. I mean, you even got to be careful when you hold the camera, even when you're holding it in landscape mode, that if you get your finger anywhere close to the lens, it's going on there because it's so wide. Because it's almost like a fisheye when you look at it. The standard wide angle is just standard, just like it is, and then the telephoto and zoom is just incredible. In the night mode, oh my gosh, I've taken some photos, and I've seen tons of pictures online about that as well. And people are having a blast with night mode because it works. I mean, you go in a dark room and take a picture of a subject, and it pops. I mean, I know Google Pixel has had it for a while, and others, and so Apple was a little late to the game on this, but you know what? They're here now.
Yeah, and I think part of that always tends to be the difference between the software and the hardware, because I've seen people forever, talking about how you get so much more fundamental control with an Android device, just with the built-in the camera app that's built into Android. Yeah. So to really take advantage of the hardware that you get with iOS, you always kind of had to install something else, and it's nice to see that some of that has been slowly changing.
So I think if anything, a lot of people are going to just absolutely love this camera. Both the 11 Pro and the 11 Pro Max, same exact camera, no difference other than the size of the phone. Even the 11. I mean, I've been telling people, if you don't have, if you're not in the budget, if it's not in your budget to get this Pro, I mean, the 11 has perfectly great camera too. I mean, and was basically like the replacement of the 10R more or less, but it's got the improved 2-lens camera.
Yeah, so I've seen a lot of good reports of the 11 as well. And basically it sort of sounds like the best I can tell, if you have a phone with a home button, now is an excellent time to upgrade.
Yeah.
Because even from my 8, which came out the same time as the iPhone 10, even with that, like the leap from my camera to the camera that the 11 has is going to be dramatic. So.
Right. So as far as, and you talked about upgrade, the upgrade program still by far amazing with Apple. I can't recommend it more to anybody. It's always a great experience. In this case, this time, my sister-in-law was ready to upgrade. She was on a 6S Plus, and hers was having problems. So she decided, you know what? Maybe I should buy your 10S Max, because that's what I upgraded from. Because most people aren't crazy like me and upgrade from the last model and
every year
to the next every year. So she took advantage of that. So we paid off the loan, and she's now it's in her hands. And I've already heard a comment from her today, because she also has the smart case that I've had. And I absolutely loved that case with that phone, for having it for the whole year. Oh yeah, my battery doesn't run out anymore, because her battery would constantly run out, and she probably is using it more than I am. So we did that. So that really worked out really well. And someone got a nice phone. It's only a year old, and she'll at least get another 3 years out of it, as much as she got out of the 6S Plus. So, and she likes the big size too. So it worked out perfect. So
that's awesome.
My wife's on the iPhone 8 still, so iPhone 8 Plus, and she's fine. She's happy with it. I'm like, okay. So I've been telling people, if you want to still use the 8, I think an 8's still a decent phone. Apple wouldn't continue to sell it if they didn't think it was still a solid device to use. So that's what's great. They're getting a lot of choices, puts in everybody's budgets, and check that out.
And they did drop the price on that as well. I did notice. And like there's nothing wrong with my phone. Like that's the thing. No. I'm not itching to upgrade for that. I'm itching to upgrade for other things. Quite honestly, Animoji are a thing that I would be really happy to have.
You're gonna have fun with these Memojis now. Holy cow. It's a lot of fun.
Yes, it's like the most ridiculous thing, but I really want it.
I haven't sent you mine yet, so I have to send it.
Face ID. I have Memoji stickers now, but I don't have like Animoji or anything. So I'm looking forward to that. And the thing I'm always looking forward to is the camera, because I always end up taking pictures in some sort of odd circumstances, or really low light, or at a really odd angle, or from really far away or from really close, and trying to make that picture happen reliably every time can be really difficult. It's like I'm always sort of pushing the limits of whatever it is my phone camera can do. And so I always am upgrading for the camera, and basically every review I've seen of these has been, holy cow, the camera. So that was part of why I wanted to why now was the time to pull the trigger.
Okay, great. Like I said, I'm looking forward to hearing how you like it. We'll definitely hear about it. The other thing, two other things I wanted to talk about with the iPhone is the battery life is phenomenal. I mean, I just looked at the battery today. I mean, I was using it all day long, normal usage, checking emails, text. I mean, constant usage. It's only down to 80%. I mean, and that's going about 8 hours of use. So
I think between optimization, we talked about this on Daily Observations like last week, I think. Between optimizing for the current processor and upping the capacity of the battery in the iPhone this year, it's like 25% more or something in the Max, and it's bonkers. And then, like, aside from they found a way to get more actual capacity in the battery, they found a lot of ways to optimize what it's doing for you. And that, to me, is the thing that I never think Apple gets enough attention for. So they do a lot of crazy like battery, like power management and power optimization and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know, all anybody remembers is the iPhone 6 had a crap battery or something. Yeah. And we had to get it replaced. So and that's it. And nobody thinks about, like, remember when they talked about doing the Terrace battery in the Air? So like there's a little bit more battery and a little bit more battery and a little bit more battery, so that they could just jam all the battery life in there they could. And, nobody stops and goes, what if we sliced the battery in pieces and like we were able to put more in there, that kind of thing. So I think there should be more attention paid to that. And I think that, as more people have reports like you, that will help, that will change.
I will attest to it as far as the testing between the 10S Max and the 11 Pro Max. The 5 hours like they quoted during the event is legit. I mean, I saw, even though I had the smart case's battery was reducing fairly quick. So so I definitely see the difference. So, and then the other thing I wanted to talk a little bit about was the SIM experience, because when you buy the phone, my carrier is T-Mobile, and all the carriers will apply to this now, is the fact that I've always wasn't wanting to get an eSIM. The eSIM be the electronic version of a SIM versus the physical SIM. For those who don't know who that is, what that is. So when I got the phone, it had the physical SIM, so I had to turn it on, I had to activate it, and I had to get it on the physical SIM that was already in the phone. So all I did was I went into the chat with T-Mobile in their app and it said, "Hey, I want to switch over to the eSIM." And she said, "Okay, why don't you give me the ESID number for the actually eSIM?" Gave it to her. Puts it in on my account. Then they have a QR code. You scan it. It gets cooking, and then voila! Within a matter of minutes, it's flipped over to the eSIM.
Wow!
And yeah, it was the quickest thing I'd ever seen. In the show notes, I actually have a screen capture. What I did was I didn't set. I knew I was going to do this because I had this feeling something would be weird or wonky as far as when you set up the phone and you transfer all your data over from your other phone. So, which now I'm going to talk about that briefly in a minute. So what I did was I just said, okay, let's just set it up that way. And then I am going to go ahead and erase the phone. And then I worry, of course, because my experiences, I shared another episode when I was in Italy and my phone got reset and I had the eSIM, which hadn't been supported just yet on T-Mobile, and I couldn't get it back into where it was. So a prompt comes up, which I said, like I said, I have a picture of that in the show notes, saying that erase the phone. Are you sure you want to do this? It always warns you anyway, but it says erase all and keep cellular plans is one of the choices in the selection. So you tap that, bada boom, does its activation, and away it goes. So and then briefly I'll talk about as far as the migration process goes, and because we're gonna slide into iOS 13 here in a minute. Now that Apple incorporated that version, that way of migrating using Bluetooth instead of using iCloud to transfer data over.
Oh, it's so good.
It's absolutely amazing. And I raved about it on Chuck's show, and because I haven't had a chance to talk about it here yet. So it was amazing. Absolutely amazing. I can't recommend it anymore. Some folks were having some issues with it, but I think but I think the problem was they were doing it in the Apple store. So there's probably I didn't want to say it, but I think I would call it Bluetooth storms, because there's just so much
there's a
going on and
Bluetooth traffic happening.
A lot of traffic. So I have a feeling that's why he was having more of a challenge, because you can hook it up cable to cable if you wanted to using the camera adapter. But yeah, it worked flawlessly, and it took a lot less time, because you're doing it over iCloud. You always sit there forever. Oh, I got to tap these apps. I want to download the apps, but even the apps downloaded quicker because it transferred all the data of the apps via Bluetooth as well. So it was
so good.
It was really great.
I got to use it to migrate to my 8. Take a picture of the screen and hang out and go have a cocktail, come back, and it's done, and it's great. And I remember just not being able to get over how good an experience it was, because I've been migrating from phone to phone for a long time.
Yep.
And so it was really nice to be like,
it was.
This is so good, because it's, I remember when it was like plug it into iTunes and it says about 20 minutes remaining, and it has said that for 30 minutes. And, you're not fooling anybody, iTunes, and so it was really nice to have a really seamless experience. That was phenomenal. I was just
It really was. I'll throw. I did take a couple screenshots, but I didn't put it. I'll put that in our show notes as well, so you can see what it's all about. And there's plenty of information out there about it. But yeah, highly recommend doing it. Even when Apple came up with the process of the automated version process, where you don't have to sign in every time. You got to put your password in every time. You got to remember your password. It's for some things you do, but the migration process they make it very seamless. It's awesome.
So nice.
So let's move on hardware. Let's talk a little bit about the Apple Watch. We both love our Apple Watches. I have a Series 4. You have a Series 4. The Series 5 came out and hit stores this last week, and
it did.
And a lot of the teardowns are saying it's got pretty much the same guts as the Series 4 as far as processor and a lot of other things that are in there. So really, the only thing that really stood out was the differences was the battery, of course, battery life, because it has to support the always on feature. Of course, the displays improve the Retina display because it has to adjust to that to help with the battery life, and then the compass. But I know you guys talked about it on TMO this morning as we record this, and I figure what the heck, let's talk a little bit about it. I'm not ready to upgrade. I think I'm going to sit tight. I mean, I'm good with the Series 4.
Like they unveiled it, like, here's the compass. Isn't that nice? But look, the display is always on. And I feel like I was the only person watching the event that didn't go, ooh, because I don't care. Like I feel like I'm supposed to, but I don't. And maybe it's just because I'm not a person who lifts my arm very slowly to look at it. And so I don't notice. Like,
come on.
Very rarely do I have a problem. Like, I want to see my watch and I cannot. Honestly, I think the most it ever happens is like I went to the movies and I put my phone in theater mode. And then after I get out of the movies, it's been like an hour or two or something. And I go to glance at my watch for whatever. And I pick up my arm and it doesn't turn on. And I'm like, what's happening? And then, it takes a second. And then I figure it out. And then I turn off theater mode and everybody's happy. Like, other than that, I don't really have issues with it. And I don't care so much about it. Perhaps if I had an older watch, it might be something more compelling. But just to me, like, I didn't really feel like I was missing anything.
Yep.
The compass is nice. Like, I'm not gonna lie, the compass would be nice, but it's not enough for me to upgrade from last September's watch to
put me over the hump. I mean, I've had every version of Series 0 all the way up to Series 4. Oh, I know. I was bad, and I did upgrade every year. But I'm going to really hold tight here. My God, am I going to? I gotta stop. I mean, I think.
I went from Series 0 to Series 4.
Yeah, remember we talked about that.
I had the original and went to 4, and I thought I was going to faint. Like, it was after lunch, and my watch says it's like 70% battery, and I'm like, how can this be?
So I'm going to sit tight for a while. Maybe wait till next September when the Series 6 comes out. Yeah,
I'm not even pretending to be interested until next year to minimum. Like, this year, that was nice, but I feel like in the last few, the biggest upgrade was the screen size when they went from I don't remember what the big one was, but from 40 to 42 or 38 to 40.
No, 38 to 40, 42 to 44.
Yeah. So 38, because I had the small one, so 38 to 40. And the fundamental difference in the amount of screen that you get with that and the watch faces that are available to you because of that, that to me was massive. And like, I know 2 millimeters doesn't sound like much, but it was a world of difference going from my 0 to my 4. Just in the amount of stuff that I can look at. Because I have what I call the fire hose watch face. Infographic with something in every single one of the spaces. So I have a thing happening in every corner, and I have like 3 in the middle and the watcher on the side, and that one.
Yep, I like that
and
one.
It makes me so happy. And so like for me, that has been the biggest upgrade, and so I'm glad I pulled the trigger on that one. Yeah, because it was really nice.
So and then Watch OS 6 came out. Did you upgrade your watch to OS 6 yet? Or? All right, great. So some of there's a ton of new features, and for our time limit here, I narrowed it down to a couple things that it did add. Before I go to that, Watch OS 6 is compatible to all the models except, of course, the Series 0, which is the one you previously had. Series 1 and Series 2 are not available right away right now as we record this, and will probably be released later in the fall. And that's understandable because it is slower hardware, and they want to make some tweaks to make sure it's a good experience. And of course, 3, 4, and 5 included as well. The two things that stood out to me the most, and I have it here, is first off, the standalone App Store. And have you played around with that at all?
A tiny bit. I didn't upgrade until a couple of days ago because I was not able to upgrade my phone. Well, I could have, but I chose not to upgrade my phone to 13 until 13.1 was out, and that wasn't until Tuesday.
Which was smart.
Which was 2 days ago. And mostly because like the .1 upgrade is always a really big upgrade to have to download and install and everything. And there's a lot of processing that happens. I'm like, why would I do this on Friday and then do it again on Tuesday? So I just waited. And so I didn't get a chance to upgrade my watch until Tuesday. And I've had a little bit of fun playing with the App Store in it. Not a ton. I've just sort of been poking around, like what's there, what can I do, that kind of thing.
That's what I did, and I'm gonna throw a screenshot in the show notes so people could see the thing comes up, and then they have right away, just like they do in the App Store on the iPhone, you can navigate through some of the features, like what's great on watchOS 6, and then it's going to bring you to a place where it's going to pick a lot of the apps, and of course, Carrot is the first app that comes up, which is not surprising because that's a great weather app. So that's on there as well. So check.
I adore Carrot Weather. +1 to that recommendation.
Yes, I agree. Yep, I have it on here. So check that out. And then the other thing that really stood out to me, and I'm so glad to. And again, there's so many other things I could talk about. Is the Noise app, and
yes,
I just am just blown away how cool this is. If I'm sitting someplace, like right now I'm talking and I'm at about 73 decibel level here, so I guess I talk loud enough here, but so it's going, now it went loud as I picked up my voice, but what it does is if it gets really excruciatingly loud, it's going to warn you that you're in a loud environment and measure that, which is just amazing.
Yeah. There used to be an iOS app that did that, and I remember there may still be, but I remember we used it once at Macworld when I was repping Tuwa still, and we went to Macworld, and I think we were at Mel's and found out that like the decibel level at Mel's before the show floor opened was just bonkers.
I bet.
And it was kind of interesting to sort of be aware of, because it didn't seem like it, because it was just everybody having these conversations. It wasn't like we were at a concert or anything, but it was like the same level of loudness as of decibels as like a concert would be. And it was kind of funny. So.
Yeah. So a couple of things I'll just mention that are in the show notes. I put a link to an article from Ars Technica. They're an awesome source of information on the Apple Watch series review. They did a great review on it, so check that out. Put that link in there, and then the link just to Apple's watchOS 6, and you can just go through some of the features. So I'm definitely going to be touching upon a lot of the new features in future episodes. So check that out. And that's the Apple Watch. So let's move on a little bit to iOS 13 and iPadOS. And of course, we've been talking about how cool it is that they finally separated out the operating systems, OS. So now iPad has
two pieces.
Yeah, me too. And iPadOS has got its own operating system, OS, and so does iPhone. But they're basically built on the same premise. They're both called 13.1 as what we just talked about coming out. So it was released finally this week, and it was interesting to see that Apple did push up the release for like a whole week, because they weren't going to release it until September 30th, but then they just did it on the 24th, which, like you just said, you just upgraded 2 days ago. So with me being on the bleeding edge when I get close, I had the Gold Master version installed on the Monday before the Gold Master actually came out. So I was on 13.0 on my iPhone, on my XS Max. Of course, I was already on it when I got my 11 Pro Max. So I didn't have a choice. I had to have 13.0. So I did that, and then it was very stable for the most part. There were some bugs. Then that 13.1 squashed, and I think a lot of people were smart to say, no, I'm not on that bleeding edge. I can wait, because very unusual. This was a very unusual release period for Apple with iOS.
It was very odd. Like I know every year, like something pops up as one of the new features, that they talked about at the keynote at Dub or something like that, and then it kind of disappears and comes back, and things sort of come and go, and this year, it was really up and down. It was totally a roller coaster. It was like honest to God beta life, this year, like there was lots of weird stuff that happened. Lots of things crashed. Lots of things, there was a big hunk of shortcuts that just disappeared at one point and is still not restored. There's just so much stuff that happen. I mean, and that's evidenced by the fact that we're already at .1, which normally doesn't happen until like Christmas time. If my math is right, the rest
was beta
of the time.
testing. It was beta testing before 13.0 even came out, so it was just crazy. I had never seen that before. The
only reason there was an actual RTM version, Gold Master released manufacturer, was because they had to have something to put on the phones, and it kind of went back, and it was a little bit retro for people, I think, who got phones who are getting phones this week to immediately pull your phone out of the box and have to update it, which is how it used to work, and so it's kind of funny to see that step back. This has prompted a lot of people to talk about there being sort of a what we always call the snow leopard release, but for iOS. Like, don't give us new stuff. Just nail down what's there and tighten some of those bolts, and make everything a little smoother and a little faster, and try that approach. And so maybe that's what we'll get in 14. I don't know, but it's
who knows?
It's that kind of thinking, and it's just been the beta cycle this year was very crazy.
But definitely was crazy. But I definitely, by now, would assume a lot of people have already done their upgrades, but I'm still going to mention, I know because you wrote up a nice kind of fun thing on Facebook about family members and backups, and it still sticks in my mind, so that's why I put this on here to talk about it. Just making sure that you reaffirm that your backups are done. iCloud backup for sure. Just all you got to do is go in there, backup now, and just and that's at the very minimum. The two other options that I always recommend is using the iTunes backup. I mean, of course, who knows how that's going to change when Catalina comes out with the. You actually have to. I did it because if I think about it, I had to use my Catalina beta on my Mac that I have here to install the Gold Master because it didn't have the beta anymore. So I had to go into Finder to find where the iPhone was, because that's where Catalina has it. But for now, everybody's still on Mojave, and you just go into the iTunes, and it doesn't hurt to run an actual backup of the whole phone just in case. And then the other app I always highly recommend is iMazing, and there'll be a link in the show notes for that. iMazing is absolutely, and I would say iMazing is amazing as far as what it does, really as far as managing your iOS device from being able to get to your messages, to your voicemails, to all kinds of stuff, and manage it. It's pretty awesome. So
the footnote I would give to that, plus one iMazing, I adore it. But also the thing that I love about it is that there are people in my family that I do tech support for who are local to me. And so like I will occasionally make them give me their phone. I will plug it into iMazing. And it's got it's everybody's name's iPhone, right? So it's David's iPhone, Kelly's iPhones, whatever. And so I will take that and plug it in. And then the bonus feature to iMazing is that it will keep all of those separate. So like, here's a complete and total backup of my phone. Here's a complete and total backup of my mother-in-law's phone. Here's a complete and total backup of my mom's phone. Here's like all, I have all of that information. And so then when somebody comes to me and goes, I don't know what happened, I'm like, no problem. I just plug it in and go, here, restore it back to that device. And it's super easy. And it also does really nice stuff like backup text messages and backup voicemails. And those are things that you don't necessarily get with just a standard iCloud backup or even a standard iTunes backup. So it's really nice to have the option with iMazing. And it makes me so happy to be able to do that, because, especially once you get an awesome camera, everybody that's just doing nothing but saving pictures from the kids or the grandkids or whatever, that makes it really easy to manage all of that information.
The good thing is it's not expensive. It's like $29, I think is how they charge. Like, so the minimal amounts, it's well worth it to manage it if you really want to get into the backups. I have this in the show notes, but I'm just going to go real quick as far as device compatibility. You go all the way from what's the current models all the way down to the even the iPhone SE is still supported, which I'm pleased to see, because I've had this conversation a bunch of times. I have a good friend that absolutely loves his SE, and he just will not relinquish it no matter what she does. And you still have an SE? Or are you?
No, I don't. I also have a friend who still carries it around. Yeah. So, and every time they unveil something, he's like, "Thanks for saving me $1,000, Apple, by not releasing another SE."
Yeah, and I'll even talk about that in a minute when we talk about haptic touch, the 3D touch on the older devices. So yeah, all the way down to the SE, the 6S Plus and 6S, that's the end of the road right there. The iPod Touch is still supported under the 7th generation only, so that's pretty typical what Apple does. So if you have the 6th gen, unfortunately you're on the end of the road on that one. So it's unfortunate with the iPod Touch. They do cut it off pretty quickly on models, but it's understandable because they do keep that model really low in price because of it not having. I mean, it's still even the 7th gen, which is the current model, is only an A10 processor, so it's slow. Yeah. So
it's pretty aggressive, and it's pretty. But as a device, it's a decent device, and it is a good opportunity. It's also really small, so if you like that little that throwback size,
just like the SE.
Yeah.
And then iPadOS 13, the 13.1 is the device compatibility goes from, of course, the current model, Pros, 11, all the Pros. Any model that was a Pro is covered. Then you have the 7th gen, which just came out, iPad, and then you have the 6th and 5th gen are covered as well. And then the Mini, which is awesome. They got the 5th and the 4th covered, 5th generation, 4th gen. Yeah, that Mini is awesome. And then the Air, the 3rd generation Air, which is the current model that's out now, and then the Air 2. Yeah. So anything after the Air 2, you're end of the road on that too. So like I said, I mentioned I had an iPad Air that wasn't good anymore. But it's the resale value is amazing on those. I think I sold that iPad Air for like $140 to somebody, and they were perfectly happy for their daughter. So it's like and they'll still get probably about 2-3 years out of it. So
absolutely.
if not more. So. Yeah. But let's go ahead and dig into a little bit about some of the features that stood out to me. Again, I could probably spend 2 hours talking about all the features. You should see the list I have. But the limit of the podcast, and not to bore everybody to death, I did pull out some of the key things that happened. The first thing was, and I threw this. I was going to throw this as a news story, but I put it in here as just a feature instead. It was really weird to see that this pop-up kept coming up saying that, well, why are apps asking to use your Bluetooth? And and this is a link. I put a link in the show notes to a How to Geek article about this. And an even more interesting one was like, I can understand apps like contact apps and anything like that. And I went through the list because you can go into the list and grab it out of there to take a look. But like Dunkin', why would Dunkin' need to access my Bluetooth? It didn't make any sense to me.
That's a valid question. And I can't give you an answer to that because there's no Dunkin' here.
Oh, that's right. You have no Dunkin' at Portland.
Oh, no. I have a whole personal vendetta against Dunkin' because they say America runs on Dunkin', but there aren't any in Oregon. So they're lying and it makes me mad. Because also, I would be there a lot if there were any in Oregon. So anyway,
I don't go there because they're too expensive. I go there, I'll spend $6-7 and I can go someplace else and get coffee and stuff for less. So anyway, that's all another topic. But things like your Fitbit, if you use your Fitbit instead of an Apple Watch, that'll all come up, and a lot of other apps.
Tile was in there. One of the ones that got me. Yeah.
Yep. So in the article, it says how to enable or disable it. You just go into settings, privacy, and Bluetooth, and in that Bluetooth list, it's going to show all the items that are enabled. I turned them all off. I mean, if they need access later, they can ask me, and I say, okay, maybe I will turn it back on. Yeah. But I'm glad they're doing this because it is a fact that the privacy, the big thing with privacy now, having access to everything. They already have access to everything anyway. So
And it's awareness. And I think, for me, I'd rather have the occasional dialogue pop up and go, hey, your tile wants to use Bluetooth. Yes. You know what? I know what I know what the tile is. I know what it does. I know what it's for. Yeah. You can have it. And like the first step I think Apple took with this was location, but not just location data on or off, but location while using the app so that you have the opportunity to use things like when I open Waze, that's the only time that Waze gets any of my location information, and that's it. And that's great. And, having the awareness and the option to turn those things on and off as I see fit is really great. So that was one of the things that I was sort of glad to see, that there was kind of this reminder of like, hey, did you know this is going to want to talk to you?
Yeah. So just I thought I wanted to point that out. So when you do upgrade and you start seeing all these pop-ups, that's why. Mm-hmm. First, and then one of the first features, and everybody's been talking about this since it was announced at WWDC, is the dark mode. It's probably the most discussed feature that they've added. I love dark mode. I'm really enjoying it, and it's not for everybody. So that's one thing I'll definitely tell you. But I set it for my work email and Outlook that I use for Outlook. The dark mode set for my it's set for the mail app, and most apps are starting to support the dark mode. Do you have dark mode on? Do you like it?
I do like dark mode. I have it on. I don't think I have it on my phone right now, but I do have it on my iPad. And I did try it out. I think I unintentionally went back to light mode, and I don't remember why. And I should probably switch it back. But one of the things that has always bothered me about iOS is that when you open a new Safari window/tab, it is always the whitest of whites, and dark mode didn't change that. And so if you're in like a low light situation and then all of a sudden it's like the sun straight into your eyeballs when you open a new Safari window, and all I want in life is for the default on that to not be FFFF, you know, or whatever it is that is the whitest of whites. Like, could it be a tiny bit less white? That's all I want. And, you know, because then, you know, in the evening or in a meeting or, you know, whatever it is you're doing that isn't necessarily in the brightest of light, you know, you try to open a new window to look something up, and it's insane how bright that seems. But so far I dig dark mode. I haven't spent a bunch of time with it, but I do like it, and I'm glad that they did it because it was something that a lot of people really wanted.
Yeah, absolutely. So easy way to be able to enable it. You enable it by going into the settings and under display and brightness and this light dark. But also, a cool thing is that I don't notice it in the show notes too, is you can actually add a dark mode into the controls center. So you go to the control center, swipe it down, and hit the buttons there, and you can enable it there too as well. So other feature that has really stood out for me is AirDrop. AirDrop is really improved because I really didn't like it the way it was in all the versions of iOS until now. So when you're sharing stuff, it just absolutely you tap it, and then the menu. And of course, we're going to talk about the share sheet that's vastly improved. I'm probably going to have to save it for another episode because there's so much to talk about in the share sheet all by itself there. But when it pops up, it automatically suggests to you the devices that are close to you right away. And then, of course, if you were going to share it in the share sheet with somebody that you've texted to previously, that comes up as well. But if you tap AirDrop is the menu is just, it's a whole nother window now, because before it was at the top and you never knew if it was ever going to connect. So now what it does is it brings you to a place that actually shows you, there's the devices that are ready to go. So like right now I have my Mac on, so now as soon as I turned on my iPad popped up. So because my iPad was sleeping, and then it came back, and there it is. I can share this in AirDrop.
Very fast. I did notice the responsiveness of it is much improved.
So they really have improved that. And then 3D Touch was replaced by the haptic touch. Haptic touch, I'm noticing it's taking me a little time getting used to, because I was used to 3D Touch. I don't like it. Yeah.
And I had 3D Touch, and I love 3D Touch. And for, touch into something, and adjust the flashlight, press in and get your favorites list on the phone app. And I think the thing I don't like about haptic touch is all of the delay, because I've been rearranging icons as I've been doing different stuff on my phone with the new version of iOS and everything. And it feels like it takes forever to get to, I just want to delete this app. I don't want to rearrange them. Yeah. I just want to delete it. And in order to get to the X, I feel like I have to sit there forever. And I know it's like a second, but it feels like forever. And I want it. Yeah. And I want it to be responsive like it was before. And so I'm not happy about it, because I was one of the people who really liked 3D Touch.
But I mean, on the other side of it, I think the menus are a lot cleaner, easier to get to, because when you tap and hold on any icon, it brings up, like in the case of a clock, I can create an alarm, start a stopwatch, and then the other really cool thing is that was always the most annoying thing for me, is trying to get the apps to wiggle, to get you so you can move them around and change them or delete them. They've put rearranged apps in every menu now. So any app that you click and hold, the rearrange app is going to show up. So then finally you could tap it, and then it starts wiggling, and then you can do what you got to do, whether you want to move apps around or if you want to delete them. So, and then so that in itself is really cool. Even when you tap and hold the settings actually they put in the drop menu, and that's a screenshot I have in the show notes. Is you get to Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, cellular data, the battery right off the bat, right from settings. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is nice.
So I was pretty pleased to where that. Now, one of the things I mentioned earlier, and I think I'm very kind of excited about, and I'm hoping my friend will update to iOS 13. He may hold off probably for like the next 5 versions before he does it, but that the iPhone SE will have some haptic touch features, even though the hardware didn't have it. they were able to incorporate it as a software-based. That's what this is. Nice. It's software-based. So some of the older devices that didn't have 3D Touch will have that capability.
We'll at least get the haptic. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. So the other thing that's changed that really threw me off was the App Store. So you go in the App Store, I'm like, where the heck's all the updates? 'Cause I love going in and checking updates all the time.
Oh, updates. Like, I lost my mind immediately.
Yeah.
I was
okay. I didn't think I was the only one.
Well, because I also, again, I feel like I'm the only one, but I don't have automatic updates on because I don't like automatic updates. Yeah. So I've been bitten by that in the past, and so no, it's up to me when I update that. And I do it regularly, but it's up to me when that update happens. And I opened the App Store and I went down to look at update, and I'm like, that's arcade. There's no updates. I don't. No. And then and I was like immediately furious, and like of course the first thing I looked up was, is Apple still signing iOS 12? Because if I have to go back, and I'm going to be super mad about it. But no, it's okay. So yeah, the thing that, the nice thing about it is that they made it as accessible as it is. So just you tap on the icon for your account, in the top right, wherever you are, that always shows up. And from there you can take it over to updates, but you have to scroll down a bit. I wish that they would give me the option to make that a little bit higher up, if I have automatic updates off. Right. But otherwise, like, I have no complaints with having done it, and I've had to do a whole bunch of updates.
Oh, of course.
Yes, because as always with the new version of iOS, we have the avalanche when everything gets updated for iOS 13.
I like that.
So, I found that I have this app, Time Hop, that you hook up to your social media feeds, and then it shows you like on this day, however many years ago, and like 7 years ago, I think, like 7 years and like maybe a week ago, was where I coined it for 2 hours. I was like, today's word is avalanche. This is what happens when a new version of iOS comes out and everything on your phone gets updated. It's like I've had to use it a bunch, and it's been super convenient. I think the biggest jump that I've seen in everything is that the icons got a lot smaller in iPadOS, and so my full screen of apps on iOS 12 is like half a screen now in iOS 13, and I don't mind it, but like I was very surprised when my iPad rebooted and like everything had been put through the dryer on high. It was very odd experience. So I was surprised. I like it now, but I'm also a person like I have 20/20 vision. 2015. I have 2015 vision. I got a laser. I had them lasered, and so my bad eye now is 20/20. I used to be unbelievably blind.
Frickin' laser.
It was freaking laser beams straight into my eyeballs, and so for me, it's not a big deal. Like I always have my font at like the smallest size on everything on my phone, and I have found out over the years that this is a security feature because nobody can read it. Like, it doesn't matter if I have state secrets open on my phone screen. If I'm using the tiniest font, there's no one in my vicinity who has any idea what is on my screen. Yeah. So to me, it wasn't a big deal. I could see people being really upset about the fact that all of a sudden all of the icons are very, very small. But I dug it, and I was like, finally, optimization. This is great.
Yep. So, like I said, it threw me off, and all you have to remember to get to the updates is tap the picture of your face. The face at the top right, and it brings you to hey, there's an account menu. So and then that's right there. I'm hoping they change it. I liked having the updates in a button and tapping it. So, but who knows? So, and then I wanted to two other things I'd like to hit. We'll talk a little bit about iPad, a couple features, and I'm kind of like an app pick. I want to get your thoughts on Apple Arcade, because I know you're a gamer. I'm trying to. I just subscribed to it, and I've been playing. So
I'm sort of a gamer. I don't want to give anybody any illusions.
All right. We'll talk about that just a sec here.
I've been known to enjoy them. We'll leave it at that. Yeah.
So the share sheet, and I've spent lots of time on the share sheet before when I have talked about the things with being able to share things from your menu. I've done in many MacStock conferences. I've had discussions about it. So I'm super pleased to how they've made changes to the way it's laid out. So if anybody doesn't know what the Share Sheet is, you go into any app, and in this case, I'm in Safari. You can tap the little icon with the arrow with the page up, and then that brings you into the Share Sheet.
The action icon, I believe,
the action icon is that the official name? I gave it a scripted name to it. So then, of course, when you're sharing something, as I just described, it has the AirDrop and all the frequent items that you've used. And then that second row is, of course, apps that's particularly compatible with. And if the same thing you're able to do is you click the more button, and then you can add other things when you edit the Share Sheet to add and remove, which is great. And then go below.
And I think that, hold on one second. I think that is one of the most underappreciated things, is that you can configure that sheet to have the stuff on it that you want, but B, you can also change the order of those things. So if you're tired of always having to swipe over to the right because the thing that you want is like 2 icons over from the right-hand side of the screen, you can fix that. And I don't think, and I think that if everybody knew and took like literally 5 minutes and sat down and made that look the way they wanted it to look, so many people would be so much happier. And it's a very, very small thing to do, because it really would take like 5 minutes to sit down and go, this I use, this I don't, this I use, this I sometimes use. And once you sort that out, like that tiny bit of optimization is going to be just so much better, like forever, until you get a new phone and that setting gets lost.
Yep. So, and then the new thing that they added was all the action items are below, like copy and add the reading list, add the bookmarks, add the favorites. That's all there. It was kind of not as easy to see. Now it's really easy to see because it's in a long list of items, and of course you can change the order of all the things that you use more frequently. And you scroll through it. There's a couple things in here now, and unfortunately I won't have time today to talk about it. But the files, being able to download files from Safari is awesome, and it's also massive. Being able to download photos from a page, like you can get images from a page by just clicking it. And then downloading YouTube videos. Holy cow. Being able to do that right on the fly from the Share Sheet without having to have a third-party app in order to do that. Because there's plenty of times I want to download a YouTube video I may want to watch later and store it locally on my iPhone or my iPad and be able to do that. So, and then shorten URL is another action item that's listed, and travel time to address. I mean, all the map stuff. I can go on and on, but there's just so much, and then there's probably a lot of things.
There's a whole show in the Share Sheet. There really is.
Yeah, there really is. I probably should just spend a good half hour just on that by itself. So check out the Share Sheet. That's what you're gonna find as far as some great improvements on there. So let's go briefly into iPadOS. Two things that stood out.
One other thing that stood out to me about iOS was the swipe keyboard.
Oh yeah,
that's something that a lot of people were super jazzed about. I've only used. There are a few different keyboards that do this, and I've used each of them sort of briefly. I haven't spent a lot of time with any of them, honestly, but I have spent enough to sort of be impressed with the one that Apple has. It feels weird at first because I'm like a 2-thumb person when I type. And so to only have the one and kind of drag it around feels really funny to me. But it also felt funny when I first started typing with 2 thumbs instead. So it's just going to be a matter of time to sort of adjust to that. So I'm trying to work on that. But the thing I really like about it is the handling of it, because it's not a special keyboard. You just drag your finger around on the regular system keyboard and it figures it out for you.
Absolutely. So we also had just a couple things I want to talk about with iPadOS. Again, that'll be another show by itself too. It's just crazy how much stuff we have to still go over. You can expect at least the next 3 or 4 episodes of talking about a lot of the new things that are out. So, but the 2 things that are notable to me was the floating keyboard, which was pretty awesome. Because now you can hold the keyboard icon on the bottom, and it brings up to a floating keyboard. And then people who like to type with one hand, and you can move it floats, so you can move the keyboard around to any spot on the iPad, so you can just type with your thumb or however. It's a smaller keyboard, but people like that. And then of course now with iPadOS, the Safari browser is a desktop class right off the bat. So when you open up websites, it's not going to bring you the mobile version anymore. You don't have to request a desktop version. It's flat out desktop when it comes to that. So, but
I think that was the biggest indicator to me that Apple was taking iPad as a device seriously was that it's now a desktop browser and you don't have to do anything special to get it. I think that to me was the part that was one of the most attention getting things to me when they made the debut, when they were doing the debut of iPadOS was, we mean it. This is really, we know that this is, a lot of people's main computer. And so we're going to make websites treat it like it's a computer. And I think to me, that was like the biggest indicator that, yeah, they mean it. This is serious. Apple finally figured out what everyone else has figured out, Federico Vitici, over at Mac Stories, who's all iPad all the time, and all those guys like figuring, it's like Apple finally caught up to those folks. And to me, that was the biggest marker that had happened. Was the desktop glass Safari.
So let's wrap things up a little bit with Apple Arcade. I just joined it the other day, right when I got my iPhone, we get a whole month to play with it. So there's a lot of neat games. Again, I'm like you. I'm not a gamer. I mean, I don't play a lot of games. But there's I even remember I just the other day we're watching Mac Weekly with Andy Nako. He says he's not a gamer, but there's a lot of types of games like puzzles and such that maybe they're types of games that you may do just as a time waster or maybe even to exercise your brain with those types of games and not the arcade or the action and all that stuff. So what was your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, my first thought is my phone screen is an iPhone 8 size phone screen.
Right.
So I do, like I said earlier, I do not measure it in acreage. And so to me, for me, it's been a little bit rougher experience. And I think it's just because I don't have enough screen, because sometimes like it's hard to see what I'm doing, or it's hard to see the thing I'm supposed to tap on because I don't have room for, like the controls all have to kind of be compressed further into the image because I'm on an 8. I have had better success with my iPad playing some games, and I can't wait to try it on the Apple TV and see what things look like on the Apple TV now that my Apple TV is updated. And I also have a Bluetooth controller that I picked up from Kickstarter like ages ago because I fell in love with it. It was... I'll post pictures someday because, well, it came in a box that is the right dimensions and is printed like an Apple IIe floppy drive.
Oh my gosh.
And then it's got like this, the outer sleeve, and you pull off the outer sleeve and the inner box is printed with all the circuitry that was inside an Apple IIe floppy disk drive. And so you take this out and then the box, and it comes with an Apple IIe, like a little baby cast metal Apple IIe stand for the controller. It is the nice, and like when I saw it, I just went, I have to have one of these, and I'll figure out what game I need to play with it. And now I've had it for like 2 years, 3 years, something like that. And now I need it. And so I'm going to probably hook it up to either my iPad or my Apple TV or something and figure out how it's going to work. And I think with a controller, if you are a person who, like, I think for me, Apple Arcade's going to be a good fit because when I want to play stuff with a controller, I'm not out and about waiting in line or anything like that. Right. But there are those games as well. So one that I played a little bit is Word Laces, where you have to like string words together with shoelaces. And then there's shoes involved. Somehow, like you level up enough and you get to lace up different shoes, I think is what happens.
Yeah, I see it on the games for you.
It's cute. Oceanhorn 2 is part of Apple Arcade, and I played the original Oceanhorn and fell in love with it, and so I'm really excited to play that. Like I don't play a ton of games, but the ones that I do, I'm like super excited about. So I'm jazzed about the Oceanhorn sequel. The one I've been playing the most is Red Rain, which is this sort of tower defense game that I'm having a lot of fun with. I've played mostly the top 3 I've played are Red Rain, which is REIGN, Lego Brawls, which is ridiculous and awesome, and What the Golf, which is like aggressively random and super duper fun. And I don't know how to describe it, but I've sort of been keeping an eye out for like what other people are saying that they've really enjoyed playing and kind of sampled some of that stuff. And so far, I think the best thing about Arcade is like I download it and I go, then I delete it and it's not a big deal. And then I just go get the next one and like, oh, okay, yeah, this is fun. And I think at least for me, what's going to end up being telling is how much, like, if I stumble on something that I super duper enjoy, like I find myself playing Red Rain constantly. And if it's going to be worth $5 a month for me to be able to continue to do that, because odds are good, like I'm not going to sample a ton of stuff. Like I'm doing a lot of sampling now because it's new. But is it worth $5 a month to me to continue to play Lego Brawl and Red Rain and What the Golf and, you know, whatever other puzzly game I find, you know, that is something really appealing. So
all right,
that's the thing I'm going to have to figure out. But yeah.
Well, and then to get to Arcade, if anybody doesn't know, you have to go into the App Store, and then there's an icon at the bottom. You tap Arcade, that's where you sign up. And then again, it's a 30-day trial. It's for 30 days. And then if you decide you want to keep going, it's $5 a month to have a lot of fun, play a lot of different games and such. So I'm definitely willing to give it a try and take a look to see what it's all about. And I've been playing a few. Have been playing a few of them, and I just found Red Rain. I'm just now downloading it, and I need to check that out. So, so we'll see how it goes. So Kelly, thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate it. We always have a great time doing the show here, and where can people find you?
Well, in a week, they can find me hanging out with your Mac user group.
That's right. Oh, I didn't mention that. That's right. Yes, you're going to be speaking at our Apple user group. That's right. Suburban Chicago Apple users. We appreciate that too.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. And the rest of the time, you can find me weekday mornings as the host of the Daily Observations podcast over at macobserver.com. You can find me on Twitter. You should find me at micro.blog. I am Verso in both places. And if you want to see random pictures of like food or things that I find entertaining, or a picture I had to take because I thought of an entertaining caption for it, you can find those on Instagram.
All right, we got you. We'll have all the links to how to find you. Thanks so much. So let's go ahead and wrap this up here. And that's a wrap for this week. Please send your comments, questions, and suggestions to our email address, feedback@intouchwithios.com. You can follow us on Twitter @intouchwithios, or you can subscribe in your favorite podcatcher, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, and even on iHeartRadio. We were just on there just recently. So better yet, go to our website at intouchwithios.com, where all the links to all the ways to listen are there. I am Dave Ginsburg, and you can find me on Twitter @DaveG65. Again, Kelly, thanks so much for being here. Really appreciate it.
Of course, it was my pleasure.
Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you again soon.